Everyone, today we're going to have a look at Stalinism and collectivization. Before this, we had a look at the period under the rule of the leader called Lenin. Now another phase begins under Stalin. Joseph Stalin was the successor of Lenin to head the Bolshevik Party, which had been renamed as the Communist Party. And in the last video, we had a look at the breakout of the Civil War, the formation of the USSR, and how, because a communist state, the aim of that state is to work towards the welfare of the workers and the peasants, how they started planning things and providing various facilities to the workers. Now, Stalin came up with a new idea called collectivization, and we're going to have a look at that in this video. The period of the early planned economy led to the disaster of the collectivization of agriculture. By 1927-1928, the towns in Soviet Russia faced an acute problem of grain supplies. Stalin introduced firm emergency measures. In 1928, party members toured the grain-producing areas, supervising enforced grain collections and raiding kulaks, the name for well-to-do peasants. After 1917, land had been given over to peasants. From 1929, the party forced all peasants to cultivate in collective farms, kolkhos. Peasants worked on the land and the kolkhoz profit was shared. Between 1929 to 1931, the number of cattle fell by 1/3. The government of Stalin allowed some independent cultivation but treated such cultivators unsympathetically. In spite of collectivization, production did not increase immediately, and due to bad harvests of 1930 and 1933, over 4 million people died. Throughout the country, accusations were made, and by 1939, over 2 million people were in prison or labor camps. So basically, what was this idea of Stalin? We see that under Stalin, a decision was taken to collectivize farms. And this means that the areas or the farms of the well-to-do peasants, who were called the kulaks, their farms were raided, and eventually the peasants collectively cultivated in collective farms. So everyone did not have individual plots of land, but they all put their lands together and worked on it, almost like sharing their land. However, we see that a lot of peasants were not in favor of this idea. They wanted their independent land. They did not want a collective land and sharing the profits. And a lot of people started resisting this idea of collectivization. Now, when they resisted, we will see a problem with the communist state. Instead of listening to the problems of the people, they started deporting these people, exiling them, punishing them. And that is when things started going wrong. Now, to add to this problem, the harvest was bad, and in 1930, 1933, and so the peasants were unhappy because they were being forced to share their farms and collectivize and farm together. They did not like that. A. B. There were also bad harvests. Now, bad harvests can happen or do happen because of the unfavorable weather conditions. Now, when both these things happened together, it led to a lot of people rebelling against the government, and the government, in order to control them, instead of really talking to them or listening to them, used a stern hand with them. 4 million people died in the harvest. A lot of people were arrested. Now, the reason a lot of people criticized Stalin was because, in fact, people within their own party started criticizing him because they felt that industrial production was not doing too well under the planned economy, and even the consequences of collectivization, where the peasants had started revolting, was also not going too well. So then people started questioning his leadership. So it's almost like countries will have a planned economy or like a 5-year plan in order to jot down the problems the economy is facing, the way forward. However, here we see that the period of early planned economy was actually linked to the disasters of collectivization of agriculture. So it's almost like both the things coincided and both of them backfired. The rich peasants whose land was taken away, they were called kulaks, and the collective farms on which everyone was made to work together was called a kolkhoz. In the next video, we'll have a look at the global influence of the Russian Revolution and the USSR. But for today, as far as Stalin and collectivization is concerned, that's about it. Just understanding the idea of where probably Stalin did not have, of course, he didn't want to create such a havoc. He wanted to get emergency reforms in the rural area so that agriculture would do well, there would be enough food, but everything just goes wrong. Thank you.